welcome to Talk Time with Teisha. I'm your host, Teisha, and we are joined with actor Michael Stein. Michael, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on. So, can you just tell us what you've been up to lately?
Well, lately I'm launching another company. It's a really cool product it's an original product. The company's called Bolator. It's a backpack that's a soft cooler that opens up to a tarp. That's also a hammock that also has a drain on it for survival purposes. So that's pretty cool. And I'm also starting to do stand-up comedy again, which I have done since on and off since I'm 19. But I decided this time I'm going to continue to do it forever.
Wow, that sounds good. How did you go from broke to eventually making $100 million?
Well, I did it to make a movie. I was making movies. I had a successful short film that I did. And that's how you get a job in Hollywood. That's how you get to make more movies, you do a short film. And then I had a lot of meetings with a lot of film executives and film companies. Big company called Lionsgate Picture. They were going to make one of my films that I wrote. But just in terms of a movie deal, so I said, I'm going to make my own company to pay for one of my movies. So then I started the company I have now, which is selling tarps on the internet. Don't ask me why I sell tarps, but I just did. There's another story there. But within 6 months, I had enough, it made over $500,000. So I had enough money to make a movie with Academy Award winner Faye Dunaway and Andy Dick and Coolio, the rap artist, and many other great actors. And since then, I've grown that business to make well over $100 million. And it continues to grow. That's how we're able to start new products like we are later on this year.
And how did you get into acting and filmmaking?
I was a nightclub promoter when I was younger, and it got me the opportunity to meet a lot of people. So my first acting role was playing Dirk Diggler in the Dirk Diggler Story, which is the short film that became Boogie Nights, which I appear in as well. And my girlfriend and Paul Thomas Anderson, who made the Dirk Diggler Story, his girlfriend were sisters. He said, I need a ride home one night. I said, I'll drive you home. So I'm a comedian. I started rolling and had him rolling. I was making him laugh. 2 days later, he calls me up. He goes, I got an idea to do a short film. It's about the rise and fall of a porno star. And I said, I'm in, So 6 months later, we made the Dirk Diggler Story, and that got made into another movie. And that kind of got me the bug to say, look, I want to do what he does. So I started making movies and acting and continue to do stand-up comedy.
So what would you say is the 10 top things for us being successful?
The very first thing anybody should ever do for anything that they want to find success in is learn personal development. Learn why you do what you do, why others do what they do. Learn about human needs psychology. That would be the first step. I know that doesn't sound attractive as oh, just tell me what I could do right now to get money in my bank account. But that is slow down now so you could speed up later. That's what you should do. Start with
what else? Because we have a lot of young people watching. So I know that this is new to them, doing a business. What else can they do to?
Okay. So before you start your business, you want to say, okay, you want to ask yourself a lot of questions. Okay. It doesn't have to be hard, but just ask yourself the who, what, where, why, when, and how. What does that mean? So you want to be able to ask yourself, okay, this is what I want to do. Why do I want to do it? How am I going to do it? Who else is doing this? What's the competition like? Can I offer this at a better rate? Is there an opening for me in this industry to where I can make money from it? If I'm selling it, if I can't get it and turn a really good profit or selling this product or widget, or I can't offer this service, or I can't do this thing and have a unique offering, you got to build, you don't have to build a totally better mousetrap, but you need to build something slightly better or different, or offer something that no one else is getting out there. So you're fitting a pain, you're fitting a need out there. That would be the second thing I would do.
So now, I know you're a comedian as well. How does comedy help with business? I mean, how can you be funny and serious, tell the audience how it helps?
Well, in some ways it doesn't help at all, but with the way it does help is that you're learning how in the negative, why people do what they do. Comedy is about taking a situation, analyzing it, and then looking at the negative and then trying to give it a new meaning. So basically, the anatomy of a joke is there's a premise, there's a story, then there is a shattered assumption of what that story was. And in the middle of that, it's a negative thing. So basically, you think somebody's going to, every joke ever invented, even Peekaboo with a baby is like, look, you were expecting this, now you expect that. That's human nature. So understanding that process of, also being concise. A joke should be short and you should deliver the punchline. So when you're doing in your business, it's like, okay, how does that help? It's like, look, when I'm writing description for my product, be succinct, say the facts, be purposeful, understand also, once again, and if you want to be a good comedian, you got to understand psychology. If you want to understand business, you really need to understand psychology. It always comes back to understand psychology because that will help. You don't have to. I know it's like, but I know a lot of messed up people out there that do great in business. They're not really like psychologists. I'm not asking you to be a psychologist, but it all really comes down to that because you got to know these things, able to give you the best chance.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in psychology before I went to law school. So maybe that's why I was able to go from one business, being an attorney, doing real estate, to going on.
What a great marriage that is. Oh my God, psychology and knowing the law. I'm like, holy, yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. So talk about like your personal development background.
Okay, so my ex-girlfriend, her dad was friends with Tony Robbins. So we broke up and I was in shambles. She was really nice. We still talk on the phone. Like 6 months after we broke up, she goes, you're living below your means. I was like wallowing, She goes, you're better than this. She goes, you know what? You should listen to Tony Robbins. I'm like, the guy with big teeth. She's like, yeah, he's friends with my dad. You really got to do this. I was like, okay, all right, I'll do it. So I bought, like back then it was like I bought his 30 tapes and I did everything, like that he had this program. And I had some success, I was like, I applied it. I did a big event. I was a nightclub promoter at the time. So I did a big event, inspired by that. And then off and on, you go in and out of personal development. I used it. It didn't work. Oh, I used it. Now it works. And then after a while, you realize, you stick with it. So that's how I've done everything that Tony Robbins has ever done. I've done every single seminar. I've gone to Fiji where he has a resort. I've done the whole 9 yards and many other people after him too. But that's like my personal development background. And that's why I got started in personal development.
So, Michael, as an actor, you're a celebrity. You've dealt with ADHD and dyslexia. A lot of people have that issue. How did you overcome that? I mean, you have like a disadvantage to a typical person and you still went on to build a business and become successful. So
I didn't know that I had it until someone told me in adulthood, and then I kind of checked it out. And I don't know, I don't pay too much credence to it, but I say it in jest. But I also think that there's traits, whatever those traits are that they say is have ADHD. I have a lot of it. But things that have helped me along the way. Once I was white knuckling it, when I was younger, because I was put in a special needs, place at UCLA because they didn't know what was wrong with me as a kid. I was quiet when I was supposed to speak up. I was loud when I was supposed to be quiet. I was impulsive. I had a stutter, and I was crazy. Basically, what kept me going in a weird way, my dad became a multimillionaire, but then he lost everything and he was homeless. He was homeless as a kid, made millions, lost it all, and he was homeless again. I saw this happen. He never finished 8th grade. So I said, you know what? If he could do it, I could do it. And my high school tutor said, I said, what do you want to do now that you graduate? I said, I want to be an entrepreneur, stand-up comedian, and actor. And she goes, not everybody's meant to do what they want to do. You might want to work with your hands, be a gardener or something. I was like, screw you. My dad never finished 8th grade, so I got a chance, right? Mm-hmm. I failed, but then I became, 6 months later, I became a nightclub promoter, became the #1 nightclub promoter in Los Angeles, my age bracket. And I was like, you know what? This is just like working out, which was my first bit of success. Working out when I saw the movie Rocky when I was like 11 years old, and I started working out every day since then because I saw a guy like me that failed a lot but was funny and successful when in the end, he tried hard. So I said, time plus effort equals success, just like working out, making people laugh. Starting a business, eventually you can, you put in the effort, something's going to happen. So that really helped my ADHD or whatever you want to call my, because it forced me, I forced myself to learn how to write screenplays. I forced myself because the desire was there. Forced myself to write stand-up, forced myself to, and then eventually, in order to make that movie, I forced myself to start a business again. And then as far as really getting, helping ADHD, when I'm interviewing other people on my podcast, because I do a podcast called Longshot Leaders, which is about people that overcome large obstacles to find success, I am forced, unlike today, I'm doing a lot of talking, I am forced to listen to them in a good way because I'm interested, I'm concentrating on what they're saying. So after 360 episodes, that's been such a gift because I think that's helped too, stay in the moment, concentrate on people. I think it's a great exercise. So this is the algorithm I think that has helped me with whatever inadequacies I've had.
That's such an incredible testimony because there's a lot of people today, especially in America, that's struggling with some form of mental issue, anxiety, depression, ADHD. And I believe they think because they have something that they're not going to be okay. But like you said, it's challenging, but you can still overcome it. So that's pretty relatable. So now I know you built another business outside of Hollywood. How do you go from being like in Hollywood to building another business out there?
Self-preservation. Basically, I did it to, when I first started my business, I was like, this is just the movie business. I'm just doing this because I want to, I was like Happy Gilmore. I was doing so well in this business, but Happy Gilmore, he wanted to put a hockey player on top of his golf trophy. I was like, no, I said, this is my film business. And I got to make the film, and it had some successes, but, monetarily, this business was doing so well. So out of self-preservation is how I got, again, success with this business. Self-preservation when I was a nightclub promoter because I just needed to survive, in the sense I needed to survive in this business too, because when I started, I was broken in debt, and it was just time to go back to being an entrepreneur, and I grew up around entrepreneurs. My dad's dad was an entrepreneur, although he failed a lot. I have generations of failing entrepreneurs, successes and failures. And that's kind of like, that's why I have this podcast that I do, because I wanted to tell stories and also make sure that once you fail and you hit a certain level and you have success, take it slow, hold on to that, make sure you don't be too volatile and lose it. And that's what I've done. And that's kind of like, the story I try to tell.
And that's so important because a lot of people don't understand, like in business, you can go from success to failure and you just have to pick yourself up and walk. But I think that's why a lot of people don't start businesses. I think they're afraid of failure because there is a chance you might fail. And I guess people might laugh, you might be embarrassed. But like you said, Michael, you got to pick yourself back up and walk. And you have seen it in different generation of people who were entrepreneurs. They failed and then they pick themselves back up and walk. And it's everybody know this. Like I came from Jamaica. My father was a builder as well. We got taxed too much, so we lost everything. We had to come to America to start over. So it's just part of life. It's up and down, and I guess we should just be happy when we're even getting momentum to move,
Yeah, try to ride those waves. My on one end of my family, there was failures due to self-induced, right? On the other end, my grandmother's father, my great-grandfather, he was a wealthy guy, owned a candy factory in Kiev, and they were persecuting the Jews out there. So they were going to put them in they had concentration camps in Russia. So they escaped that, and he left everything and came with nothing. So sometimes the world's not fair. Sometimes it's self-induced. Sometimes shit happens. Things happen. And sorry to swear. And basically, you just roll with the punches. But certain people need to learn how to fail, meaning not learn to fail, but learn how, when failure comes, learn how to navigate out of that. Certain people are so used to winning all the time, or they don't want to deal with failure, so they hide themselves from failure. Run towards the problem, don't run away from the problem. And if you run towards it and you analyze it and you work on it, you learn about the failure, then you could succeed. That's what I've come to learn.
And I think that's why, like, being in this entertainment business, there's so many people on drug addiction because it takes so long to get famous or successful. And I think the thing about it is that a lot of people need to understand that there's just a downtime, but there's going to be an uptime. There's a dry season and there's a good season. Isn't that how it is?
Absolutely. And also volatility, when there's ever a change, you'll see a divorce or something, you'll see an actor, it's like, they're both on the same level. One person hits big, and that volatility, whenever there's change in your patterns, there's this pattern, and it creates volatility in your day to day. People don't know how to deal with that. Sometimes it threatens some of their needs to feel secure, so they'll reach for something else to ease that pain, whether it's alcohol or anything else. The other thing is that somebody can be wishing for something for so long. So, if I want to be a star, and they finally get what they want. And sometimes the journey to get there is so much more exciting. So when they finally get it and their journey doesn't live up to, like the actual thing, they're sitting there with the Academy Award, and the next day it's quiet and you're depressed. Well, that's because the high of what's the possibility, just realize that the journey, and you're cognizant of like, hey, look, this is just a part of it, Tom Hanks said this great line with a round table with a bunch of actors. He said when he had a hard time trying to be an actor, he said, okay, this too shall pass. Then he won the Academy Award back to back. He and Spencer Tracy, the only actors to do this, back to back 2 years for Forrest Gump in Philadelphia. And then he told himself, this too shall pass. So that's a good way to look at things.
So tell me how you had a dysfunction in your upbringing, because you didn't have a perfect life, because most people think if you're successful, your life must have been perfect. But you didn't have a perfect life. So how do you go from an imperfect life to success? I mean, that seemed to be the number one thing that hold people back. My life was not perfect. It depends on how you look at it. So I grew up a lot of dysfunctionality. Your dad's not supposed to bring a prostitute, your bar mitzvah, you're not supposed to be around, a lot of, crazy parties. And, when you're visiting, a lot of crazy things going on in my household. I had to sleep in the same room with my grandmother until I was 9 years old, because we were a poor family and I was the youngest. We lived in a nice neighborhood, but, so I'd have to wake up to hear these stories about escaping the Holocaust was my bedtime story, and just had a lot of, I wasn't a planned kid. So, had a lot of health issues when I was younger. So there was a lot of, but humor was the first thing I had success with. I made fun of myself, just made fun of anything to get me through it. And it became a pattern, to where it's like when something bad happens, in personal development, in comedy, you ask yourself, what sucks about this? So you could try, because you usually find jokes, the negative denominator is a joke. When something, in personal development, you want to ask yourself empowering questions to lead a better direction. What's good about this? What can I learn from this? What's interesting about this? What's funny about this? When bad thing happens, I'm not saying that you don't deal with something for 15, 20 seconds, but usually my knee-jerk reaction has helped me navigate out of those bad situations, because we're like, why did my ex-fiance cheat on me? Well, she was a habitual pot smoker, and oddly enough, she cheated on me with a guy named Bud, which is true. So, those are the things you think about. You just try to find humor, or that's what I did. So, Michael, definitely, I have a lot of young people on. You said something, your grandmother escaped the Holocaust?
Yeah, the Russian concentration camps. I guess before Hitler did what he did, he got the idea from Stalin. So in Russia, he killed like 20 million people. The Stalin did. It was the Bolsheviks. They were putting Jews in concentration camps in Russia. So that thing was like 2000 or 2000. What? No, this is, could be right now. It was 1914, 1915. Long time ago. And this is.
I want young people to know about the Holocaust, because I have 9-year-olds.
Yeah. So the Holocaust. We've had a Holocaust survivor on. Hitler in World War II, he started, a lot of the Jews were doing pretty well in Germany. They were making a lot of money. So I'm paraphrasing, and I'm kind of, making this with a comedic twist, if that's even possible. He said, hey, I know what we can do. Let's get rid of these guys. Let's take their businesses. Then, we'll be able to distribute the wealth, and let's get rid of these guys, because, we just don't, they're, even though they were in the country for like 1,000 years, since 950, they, in 1939, they started to say, look, I know, because they were very wealthy. And it was when you have a small sect of people that are very wealthy, and there's a juxtaposition, there's a contrast between, so that's, I believe, was his impetus to say, let's make a systematic, we'll gather these people, we'll put them in ghettos, and then eventually we'll just start systematically getting rid of all of them. And we'll go to the other countries too to get rid of them. And he was a crazy fanatic. And that's what he ended up doing, killing 6 million Jews, gypsies, a lot of other people.
It's just incredible that happened. My brother-in-law is Jewish Jamaican, and that was the first time that I've read about it. And I'm just thinking, how could we have just stand back and did nothing for so many years? But it's, this is a story that has to get told from one generation to the next so it doesn't happen again. They just envied a group of people who worked hard. That's all it was.
It might have happened a little less time, but there was no internet, so things are happening. I don't know if that's real, what's going on. It's like, and nothing happened like that. And it's also, when I talked to a Holocaust survivor, he kept on saying, because you'd hear like in third world countries, there's like people like other tribes fighting other tribes, like this is, but he's like, this was a sophisticated government. Germany was a sophisticated government, and they systematically kind of did this, and no one ever saw anything like that at that time. It's like, come on, this can't happen. And Jews have been living there for like 950 years or something. They figured there was like, Germany was actually the one place that let Jews in. That was like, because Jews were like wandered out of like Israel, that area of Judea, and then they wandered to all these other countries, and they went to like Spain, and then the Spanish Inquisition, where they said, we're going to castrate you. We're going to cut your balls off if you don't like convert, So they said, okay, screw it, we'll leave here. And they went there, and then you couldn't own land. That's why there's not a lot of Jewish farmers. You couldn't own land, So you had to think of other ways to make money. So they created like the banking system, said, okay, I got money. I make diamonds or whatever. I'll loan you my money. You give me interest. It was called usuces. And that's where the term like stingy Jew came from. Because it's like, okay, this is how I make money. Now you're going to pay me back interest. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm giving you the $10 I owe you. No, you owe me $10.50 or something. And they're like, you stingy Jew. So, so that's how these things get started. But I'm deviating, but this is a fun subject to talk about history. I love history.
No, it's very important that the young generation understand this stuff. We have to pass on from one to the next, This is part of what America is for. And I think, I'm pro-Israel. I believe that Israel owns Jerusalem. So these are stuff that people need to understand, Yeah,
that Israel's a tough situation, but and
it affects America. We have to get involved.
Yeah, it's tough because it's home to a lot of people. The Jewish people have been there for thousands of years, but then they got, they've always been there, but then a big sect of them wandered. You ever hear the term wandering Jew? There's a plant called the wandering Jew. Basically they all wandered around there for a long time. The United Nations got together after World War II and said, hey, what are we going to do with all these Jewish guys? They've been kicked all over for about thousands of years to try to find a home. I guess they can go back to where that's what they originally came from. But then other people say, we're living here too. So it's a tough situation, but that's kind of like the story. It all starts, I guess, with my grandmother escaping those Russian concentration camps before Hitler did it. And she told me every morning, so everything's a joke though. I turned everything to, I have jokes about that because it just, it helps you deal with things that are kind of difficult sometimes.
Interesting. So what's the 10 top recipe for like success? You got to tell us.
Oh, I never even thought of about a top 10 on that, but here's, I'm going to say the first one. Get involved in understanding why you do and why other people do what you do. Get involved in personal development. That's rule number one. And a lot, one of the biggest. Then take care of your body and take care of your mind. Be physically fit because that's the tool. Physiology, the triad of focus. If you're going to be able to be an athlete, like for success, there's called the triad of emotions, which is your physiology. It's your physical body, how you move, your physiology, muscles in your face, everything in your body. Physiology, what you focus on, and your words, the things you say to yourself internally and the things you say to others. It's a recipe. So mind the triad of your emotions. That's rule number 3, because the first or 4. So personal development, take care of your body, take care of your mind, constantly learning, take care of your emotions, because that's what's going to drive you. Be organized. Okay. A great acting teacher, Eric Morris, friend of mine, has written like over a dozen books. He says for acting, for anything, 95% of success is preparation. Prepare. Okay. Then also don't get wallowed and prepare. Once you've prepared as much as you can, speed. You need speed in business and success. If Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, says, "Hey, look, when he does it," because I talked to a lot of employees on the show that say I've done business with him, I work with him, and I said, "What's unique about him?" He says he doesn't. If he's 95% on something, he doesn't wait for the last 5%. 95% is a lot. And some people are perfectionists, say, "I want to make sure it's 100%. It's not done yet." You know what? Speed is important in business and anything, and especially in success in anything. So then you got to plan, so prepare. 95% preparation is prepare, but that last 5%, screw it. Get it started. Go. Speed. Learn from your mistakes. Gauge. Make sure you're gauging everything. Stay organized. Set goals. Backdate goals. Spreadsheet. So if you say, there's more than enough time for me to be this physically fit, or more than enough time for me to do stand-up comedy, or more than enough time to start this business. Backdate that. Even pad it then, but then make sure you then put all the prior dates. I'm going to need to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Backdate. Also ask yourself the who, what, where, why, when, and how. And also Toyota, when they're the great company Toyota that has been so successful, they became so successful because they have a motto. They ask themselves why 5 times. So, when you say, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? I do that with the who, what, where, why, when, and how. No matter what I'm talking about, whether it's politics or anything, or myself, or I ask myself, who, why, what, where, when, and how. And I ask myself 5 times, well, who does that? Who does that? Who does that? And basically, that'll give you a level of consciousness, understanding, and vision for getting your success that you want to get. I don't know if that's 10, but those are the good ones.
All right. So tell us about the podcast. How can viewers know more about this podcast? How can they tune in?
You go to longshotleaders.com. Basically, we tell the stories of people that have overcome large obstacles to find success. So if you're out there, if you're somebody, it doesn't have to be monetary, it could be anything. We talked to one of my favorite stories. We talked to a Holocaust survivor, and how that all happened and how he navigated out of that. But also, a comedian friend of mine, he was homeless since he was the age of 12 to 24. Now he lives in Omaha, but he owns a home now, and he's a manager of a company. And and that's a nice success. That's a nice arc. So any kind of if you have a long shot story where you've overcome large obstacles to find success, contact us at longshotleaders.com. We'd like to tell that story.
All right. So we would love to have you back on. Thanks so much, Michael. You've just, literally encouraged, and it's incredible. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching Talk Time with Teisha. That was our guest today, Michael Stein, and we'll be back another time. See you real soon. Take care.